Alrighty guys, and we're back for another video, and today we're going to be discussing the controversy with this title. They got rid of Shockwave grenades because of Nick 830. Now, since then, the devs have supported some tweets saying that this wasn't on him and the many creators that were supporting the removal of Shockwave grenades, but we're going to break this down in depth of why this secret-handedly just destroys Zero Build. And if anybody that hasn't played a game like this, of course, two different settings for Battle Royale and then Zero Build. A lot of the players can get around with without having so much movement and deal with having to fight players with builds. Now with Zero Builds, you have to worry about like making sure your positioning is right, making sure your aim and making sure your opportunity to take over fights with your movement is all on point, because you can't just build a ramp, you can't get up to 90s without that, except for if you're using a porter forward, which you can't even edit. So in Zero Builds, movement is probably the #1 thing. I know in Battle Royale it's how well you can aim sometimes, how well you can edit and switch edit in and box and all that type of stuff, but primarily for Zero Build it's really important to have a good line of movement, and many seasons it comes down to how well the player base rates it by how well the movement items were that season. When it was the Mortals and Myths, it had the wings, which a lot of people coming back to that season now, they don't like it, but they would prefer it to what we have now, which is nothing in the Zero Build scene. Having Shockwave grenades being one of the OGs since Fortnite just came out, it was kind of the template for movement items in the entire game. That's one of the more unique things about Fortnite, having some way to rapidly get from one place to another with just a instant click of a button and set up many different plays. Kind of set up why Fortnite was a little bit different from the regular extraction shooter games or looter shooter games like Call of Duty. So they experimented many times with movement, that being the Crash Pad Juniors, and then the Crash Pads, of course, the wings like I mentioned. You have the many variants of like the Shockwaves. Now, what they don't realize is earlier in the season, they took out swords. Swords is another thing that's interesting because it's a melee, but for the pro players, it's normally used as a mobility item because it allows you to dash. Them taking away the dash out, while it still hurts the main general player base of Battle Royale and Zero Build, it crucially takes away a major movement asset from a pro Zero Build player that's using the sword just to get around the map. Now you're gonna have to worry about rely on Shockwaves. And now we get this. With the removal of Shockwaves, we have to rely on Crash Pad Juniors. And I know that the dev is trying to say the #1 reason for getting rid of it was combat fleeing that could spoil engagements. Now I don't know if anybody has played Fortnite, or if the devs themselves have decided to open their game. The Crash Pad Junior is essentially what you are telling us you do not want us to do, because the Crash Pad Junior is a better version of the Shockwave grenade for running away. The Shockwave grenade in the hands of a pro is more, it's more for offensive capabilities than defensive. Yes, it can be used to get away in many different scenarios, but a lot of times you're using that and the grappler in the same scenario, and that and the sword in the same scenario. You're setting up yourself with movement to get a better offensive shot. Not a lot of times are people running away with the Shockwave unless they're low on health, and which it happens. You're gonna get some gamers that's gonna try to bail out once they see their shields crack and they have low health. The Crash Pad Junior, on the other hand, it's only reliable for one reason. You double click your one button, you click one button, and then you're out. You spam a Crash Pad on the ground and you're out in the distance that you throw it in. You can't really set the Crash Pad up for an offensive mood unless you're aiming it yourself, and if that it really gets kind of technical because the crash pad has to then like deploy, and then it can get tricky whether it doesn't land straight. That's why it's very weird why they would say, oh, they don't want that, because when you use the crash pad as just a getaway tool, it is always going to be effective because it's going to throw it at the ground. Now with the whole adding back this but lowering the how much you can hold in it is kind of crazy, because if you didn't notice, you can only hold so many crash pads, and I think they can only go up to 6, I believe, or 4 in Battle Royale, which is still insane. We were able to hold 6 Shockwave grenades. It's wild that they want to lower your movement, and then they want to lower the way you're gonna get around. This truly hurts a lot of the zero build players, because now late games look the same. Early games look like, actually early games start out very, very quickly. People dying very early in the scrimmages to outside of the map because they can't find any movement. Players that rotate in the middle of the circle, it's who has the movement and who doesn't. It's that simple. It's all the games are looking pretty much the same now. That's why it's unfortunate that Fortnite has to just listen to the one YouTuber that just says, hey, vault it, but the whole player base is kind of going against it. So chat, let me know what y'all think. Let me know if you actually agree with what the Fortnite game designer is saying in his tweet and in his Bunderchip, his excerpt, saying that, you know, this was a good balance patch, not one that was made out of just following complaints from a YouTuber. And let me know if you guys agree with that, because me personally, we'll get on real next season if that's the case.
How dare you defy a god! I will destroy you! Your fight ends.